Hello, this is the Ramblings of an Indisciplined Mind podcast for Friday, September 23rd, 2016. So about 2 weeks ago, Nathan Lowell released Milk Run, the latest book in his Solar Clipper series. And I reread it again. And I say I reread it because I was one of his beta readers. So I read it then. It hasn't changed a lot. He has done some things. He did do some things to make things a little bit clearer. Some of the one of the big ones was something that I had pointed out in my comments. I'm sure I'm not the only one that did so. But it hangs together really well. So, in case you're unfamiliar with Nathan Lowell, on the off chance, he's got a 7-book, well, I should say this quickly. He's got a 6-book series called The Golden Age of the Solar Clipper that stars Ishmael Wong. And he... way back, he initially marketed it as, if you like the old Robert A. Heinlein stories, like have spaceship will travel, spacesuit will travel, and Farmer in the Sky, they were just kind of these young adult things, young adult stories. Before there was a young adult story, ooh, that's a nasty accident. And I love those books. I still have those books, I think. I love those books. I have a box set. And I've read a lot of Robert Heinlein, but I call this like his young adult series. And this was way before YA was a thing. And so he hooked me on that. And so I listen to these books, and I love them. He also releases them on PottyBooks.com. They're available as ebooks. He even sells them as paperback through Amazon if you really want paper. And then after a long break, after the 6th book in that series, I believe it was earlier this year, he released To Fire Called, the first book in a new trilogy, starring Ishmael Wong again, and company. There are a number of people. So the whole point of the first 6 books was being a crew member and then an officer on a solar clipper, these vast freighters that haul freight from one station to another in the Western Annex, as the quadrant's called. Great books, I love them. So, and then, but bad things happen toward the end of the 6th book there, and so the 7th book is kind of issues dealing with that and whatnot. And it is the first book of a new trilogy called The Seeker's Tales. Well, this book, Milk Run, is set in the same universe. It's called it's the start of a 3-book series called Smuggler's Tales, and it's totally different characters. There is a little bit of overlap. There's like one character at the very beginning, which we saw in Ash is Born, but other than that, the main character is this woman named Natalia Ruggieri. Jeez, I keep on saying Natalie. No, Natalia Ruggieri. And the book opens, and she is at a function at a tea held at the dojo of her Tai Chi master, Sifu Numar. And she's alone in the kitchen getting some tea, and this guy who's You got a rep as a perv, makes a move on her, and she like pushes him back a little bit, and all of a sudden he slips and falls, and blood is flowing from behind his head. And then Sifu Newmar shows up and says, "Oh, you killed them. You better run. I can give you half an hour." And Zoya was there helping her and showed up to help her, and so Zoya accompanies her. And they get up. She's got a ship. They get to her ship, and they're leaving the station, and all of a sudden, TIC, which is, I forget what it stands for, but it's kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of like the enforcement arm for the government there. And TIC interceptors are chasing them, and they just barely get out in time. And now, thinking that they've got a murder rap hanging on their heads, they can't go to any of the civilized stations, the stations that are run by the governing body, which is called the CPJCT, which stands for I know this, I just got to get it out of my mouth. Confederated Planets Joint Committee on Trade. I think TIC is like Trade Investigation. I forget what the C is. So they have to go to what's called toehold space, which are independent stations that are kind of running outside of the government-controlled areas. And this is something that we saw a little bit of, or heard a little bit about, in the Golden Age, toward the end of the Golden Age tales. And so, the people that are doing these solar clippers, they have a certain set of instincts about what's going on out there in toehold space in these independent stations that there's killing and looting and raping and everybody's murdering scum and whatnot. And we get to see that that's not necessarily the case in this. He does a masterful job because you got Natalia, who's been there before, although when she was much younger. But she at least knows a little bit of how to get around and how to interact and how not to appear to be fleet, as the toeholders call the people that are, strict CPJCT. That's what they're used to. Zoya is fleet to the core, and she dresses like it, and the toeholders that they interact with recognize it. And so very quickly, Natalia realizes that she was set up, that she was drugged, that the pervert probably isn't dead, and that the TIC interceptors that hounded her out of station, or out of the system, are not real. They were simulated, and they were something that Zoya had loaded when she was loading a set of coordinates on her tablet, and so she realizes that Zoya is working for somebody, and she's actually working for TIC. And so this happens all fairly early, and so from there it's they're trying to make a living out there, in toehold space. Zoya has been tasked with tagging along, and Natalia's letting her, and so adventures ensue. They end up on a smuggling run back to one of the Confederated planets, and things happen that kind of make you make me cringe, because I guess you'd say I'm fleet, because those of us that have read the previous 6 books, we're fleet. We know how you're supposed to run a ship, and then you see how these ships are being run by the toll holders, which are much more relaxed and slipshod, and it kind of makes you cringe inside. But it's a fun book. It's a nice setup piece. So what Nathan's doing is, there's going to be 3 books in this series, and there's going to be 3 books in the Seeker series, and at some point they're going to mesh together. They're going to interact together. So I'm interested in seeing what that is. If you've not read any of Nathan's stuff, you could use this book as a start point if you don't feel like necessarily starting with all of Ishmael's adventures right from the get-go. If you wanted to kind of read something that's more indicative of maybe his current level of writing, whatever. I love all these books, so I would recommend go back to Quarter Share, which is the first of those, and read them. But if you're just kind of like want to get a taste, maybe check out the sample for Milk Run by Nathan Lowell. I think it's a fun book, and as always, I'm waiting for more. The next book that comes out is he's gonna flip-flop between these. So the next one is another book in Ish's world, and it's To Fire Called is the title of that one. So I'm looking forward to reading that when he gets it out. Maybe I'll be lucky and get to be a beta reader again. But that's all I really thought I'd talk about today. I will be back tomorrow. That's the plan, at least. And I'll be talking to you then. So, be seeing you.